Mineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi şrah li sadri ve yessir li emri ve hlul ukdeten min lisani yefkahu kavli. Mineşşeytanirracim. Selamünaleyküm ve rahmetullahi ve berekatuhu. Inshallah we will start a new chapter today. This is 20th letter. It's not from the words, but another book of the same esteemed scholar, Imam Nursi. The book is called The Letters. So for newcomers, we've been studying the works of very well known, received scholar Imam Nursi. He's a 20th century scholar. And again, this is the book, The Letters. We will inshallah read from there. So I will ask for a volunteer to read, but the first part, I guess when we read it in Arabic would make more sense. So we will inshallah read the Arabic version of "There is no God but God, He is one, He has no partner" part, and then go back to English, and then I will ask one of you to read. Let's see who. Let's start reading the Arabic. Can you read it very slowly, please, like one by one, so that people will catch?
Bismihi subhanahu wa in min shay'in illa yusabbihu bihamdihi. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. La ilahe illallahu wahdahu la sharika lahu. Lahul mulku ve lahul hamdu yuhyi ve yumit ve huve hayyul la yemut biyedihil hayr ve huve ala kulli şeyin kadir ve ileyhil masir.
Jazakallah khairan. So we will study this part which starts with La ilaha illallahu. This is so we will study this part by part, okay? So we will first study La ilaha illallah part, and then we will study Wahdahu part, and then we will study La sharika lahu part, and so on and so forth, okay? And the way we will study it will be showing how belief in God, belief in Allah, and then His oneness, and the fact that everything belongs to Him, and the fact that every praise, the thank goes to Him, and the fact that He creates the life and the death, and He is alive. All these parts we will study to see how they help us in our life, okay? Rather than just trying to understand them, what it means, La ilaha illallah, we will try to study why belief in La ilaha illallah helps us in our life, why we need it as a human being, and why we cannot live a human life without believing such phrase. Okay? Or without such phrase being our conclusion. We will try to show, we will study how it is not possible to live a humanly life without them. So for instance, if you do not believe La sharika lahu part, there is no partner for Him, right? If you don't believe in that, and when I say believe, it's not that, oh yeah, I believe because I'm Muslim, but rather being convinced with it, feeling safe, secure with it. Like if there's for instance, an objection, you said it doesn't make sense because, so you have such a certainty. If you don't have such a certainty, we will study and our scholar will show us that your life is doomed to be miserable, and there's no escape from there. There's no other alternatives. Our, again, the scholar would argue. And again, we will try to study it in a way that when we leave this discussion, we should see some changes. We should at least understand that there needs to be something in my life that needs to be changed. There's something in my life that needs to be changed. Okay? So we will study this text, inshallah. That's the reason we jumped into this letter, specific letter, because we thought by studying this, by understanding this together, we can start a new chapter in our lives. Okay? So that will be our purpose. So if by end of the discussion, you don't see any, the change in your life, in the way you look at the world, that means we are not studying it in a proper way. Okay? And I say we, it's not you, but we are not studying it in a proper way. So you have all the right to blame, first and foremost, me, because I'm leading today. But next week it will be up to Rahman, inshallah, so you can blame him the next week. But this week you will blame me and all of us. Right? So that will be our point. How our life will change in the light of there is no God but Allah. And He is one, and He has no partner. Okay? So with this introduction, we will start reading the English, inshallah. Do we have any initial comments? Any responses to what I said? No? Okay. So then, who wants to read? So we will only read the first part, this intro part, and then the introduction. So it's a short read, but we need to read it slowly. So who wants to read slowly? Arsalan, would you like to read it?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
In his name be he glorified. And there is nothing but it glorifies him with praise. In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate. There is no God but God. He is one. He has no partner. He is the dominion, and his is the praise. He alone grants life and deals death, and he is living and dies not. All good is in his hand. He is powerful over all things, and with him all things have their end. This sentence, expressing divine unity, which is recited following in the morning and evening prayers, possesses numerous merits and, according to an authentic narration, bears the degree of the greatest name. It consists of 11 praises, each of which conveys both some good tidings and a degree in the unity of dominicality, Tevhid-e Rubaiyat, and an aspect of the grandeur and perfection of divine unity from the point of view of a greatest name, referring a full explanation of these vast, elevated truths to other parts of the Risale-i Nur. In fulfillment of a promise, we shall for now write a brief index-like summary of them in 2 stations and an introduction.
And the introduction.
Oh, introduction as well?
Yes.
The entire thing?
Yeah. Just the introduction.
Introduction. Be certain of this, that the highest aim of creation and its most important result is belief in God. The most exalted rank in humanity and its highest degree is the knowledge of God contained within belief in God. The most radiant happiness and the sweetest bounty for jinn and human beings is the love of God contained within the knowledge of God. And the purest joy for human spirit and the sheerest delight for man's heart is the rapture of the spirit contained within the love of God. Yes, all true happiness, pure joy, sweet bounties, and untroubled pleasure lie in the knowledge of God and love of God. They cannot exist without them. The person who knows and loves God Almighty may receive endless bountiness, happiness, lights, and mysteries, while the one who does not truly know and love him is afflicted spiritually and materially by endless misery, pain, and fears. Even if such an impotent, miserable person owned the whole world, it would be worth nothing for him, for it would seem to him that he was living a fruitless life among the vagrant human race in a wretched world without owner or protector. Everyone may understand just how forlorn and baffled is man among the aimless human race in this bewildering, fleeting world if he does not know his owner and if he does not discover his master. But if he does discover, know him, he will seek refuge in his mercy and will rely on his power. The desolate world will turn into a place of recreation and pleasure. It will become a place of trade for the hereafter.
Jazakallah khairan. So we will start reading from the beginning, but before that, let's start with, as usual, the initial comments. What stayed with you? What questions it raised? Anything? So just looking at other places wouldn't work with me, you know that, right? So let's see some volunteers, please. Any initial comments? Zarim, would you like to share some initial comments? Arsalan, do you mind? Yeah. Oh, you don't have? Okay, okay, maybe Sarah then. Any questions? Yeah, please go ahead.
Or a comment. I have a
Yeah.
comment. I didn't know that like the highest aim for us is like to believe in one God. I
That's
thought,
fantastic starting point. Thank you.
I thought it's more like to worship. Well, one of them is to believe in one God, but also like the worship and all of that, and then to believe in the akhirah and So I think I would like to know why is that so important to believe why would it be the highest aim of the creation?
Just to make sure that I'm getting it right. This is not a question. So I'm just trying to open it up. Please don't get me wrong. So when you say I didn't know the highest aim, what was the word? The goal, aim?
The highest aim of creation.
Okay, highest aim of the creation is belief in God and just one God, like oneness. And you said you were thinking more of like a worship. That would be our highest aim. You said, right?
I mean,
and this is an ayah from Quran anyway.
Yeah, and also it's also like the other ayah when the malaika, when the angels ask God, why are you creating someone who will, shed blood and all of that? And he said, I know what you don't know, but I don't know about other ayahs that talk about really why we were like created exactly. Yeah.
So there's one ayah as again, like I created man and jinn for nothing but worship. Yeah. So the part I'm trying to understand. So what does it, like when you say worship, what comes to your mind other than belief in one God? How they are different? That's I'm trying to understand. Again, this is not, trying to show that you have a mistake or anything. Maybe I'm missing something. Seriously.
Well, I mean, the practices we use, like,
I see. So with the worship, you mean more of a practices. Okay. I see. Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. And the ayah says the ibadah, right? The ayah that we refer to. Yes. Okay, that's a great point. Any other? You have something? Please, the microphone to her.
Just a small thing. For me, the thing that's standing out is the knowledge of God contained within belief in God, and then the love of God contained within the knowledge of God. So those two things, I guess, I've never really thought about it all starting with belief, or belief being the starting point of like love for God, but that's interesting to me.
So this is from.
So the second sentence says, the knowledge of God contained within belief of God.
Okay.
So knowledge is directly related to belief. And then the fourth sentence says, or the fourth line says, the love of God contained within the knowledge of God. So love is contained in knowledge, and then knowledge is contained in belief, according to this.
Yeah. So in the original Turkish, it's a little bit easier to follow. Actually, it's the same. Okay. So the belief, as it translated, it is iman billah, so believe in God. And then knowledge is marifatullah, like knowing your. It's not that. So with the belief in God, the way I understand, just for shortly, for now at least, we can open it later. But there must be a God. Okay, there must be a God. There must be one who creates everything and so on. This is belief in God. And then when we say marifatullah, the knowledge of God, now you know what you are talking about, like the whom you are talking about, kind of, right? You have a relationship with him. Now, you say that he is the loving one, he's taking care of me, he's all compassionate one, he's all powerful one. Now this starts the knowledge, the marifatullah. And then the love of God is muhabbatullah, which is actually the love of God, like a habba. Sorry. And finally, there's also, I don't know how it is translated, the final one, lazzat ruhaniye. Okay. The rapture of the spirit. Okay. So yeah, we will come to there, inshallah. These are not only like in most, let's say, discussions about Iman billah, Marifatullah, Muhabbatullah, and so on and so forth. They are usually studied in a very theoretical way, right? But here, the approach is more, I would say, practical. And inshallah, we will come to there and see how all of them very important and how distinguishing them also important for us. Any other such fantastic comments? They raised the bar really high. So, gentlemen, no. So, Roman, any comments, any questions?
One comment is one of the reasons maybe why I come to these discussions is to, like, why do I come to these discussions is maybe a question to ask. In the second paragraph, that's practical reason. Maybe the food, the company, the fruits after, the little babies, those are like the primary reasons. But in the second paragraph, in the second sentence, it says, while the one who does not truly know and love him is afflicted spiritually and materially by endless misery, pain, and fears. And I guess the question or the reason why we would come to such discussions, or I would come to such discussions, I feel somewhat this misery, pain, and fears in my life. And I'm seeing, where is the solution to this? Or is there someone that is giving me a solution? Because I look around the world and most people would say, no, that's just life. You have to deal with it, or you have to, like, maybe you can take things that lessen the pain or make it a little bit better and more manageable, but it doesn't ever get rid of it. There's no solution for it. But here, Nursi is saying that there is a prescription for this pain that you have. There's a medicine, a solution, something that can solve it. And I'm like, okay, now I'm interested. Like, is there really a solution? And if I'm in this state as well, maybe I should question if I do think I'm living my life according to, like, let's say, being a Muslim, or I'm actually doing my worshiping and all this, but I still feel this pain. Maybe there's places to improve, or there's other ways I can approach it. Like, it's just makes me think of that.
Alhamdulillah, and that was even better. So, Alhamdulillah. So, and thank you for reminding us that that should be our goal when we come to these discussions. So, realizing the needs that we have, the misery in our lives, and trying to find a solution to them. Because, like, why this is important in like most of the times. So I'm talking about myself. You can, benefit from that as much as it applies to you as well. But most of the times, I assume that I have a good life, and nothing needs to be changed or improved. I'm already a Muslim. I'm already a believer, and I'm studying in a good university, or doing a good job, or at least working hard. And if you are married, you say, I'm at least a good father or mother or a child. What else I can do, right? The rest is just being part of a society, do some good deeds, and let the time pass. This is usually what I am. But at the moments I carefully look at my life and see what really I am, how my life is really, then I see the misery there. I see all these needs, I see all these problems. And at that moment only, I, genuinely, sincerely turn to my Rabb and ask for guidance. Otherwise, people should come and ask me for guidance. This is how I live my life. But I don't need guidance. I'm already in a good position. So I think we should make it maybe a custom, a habit to do the balance. How would you say, like a muhasabah? Accounting, checking the balances of your life, right? We should make this a habit. Say it again.
Reckoning.
Self-reckoning. Yes. Yep. And today, in today's khutbah, the Imam, he was saying, you're spending all your time talking about others, criticizing others, and don't spend any time to check yourself. That's what you should be worried about. Check yourself all the time. Which I like to tie to the very first sentence. The sentence expressing divine unity, which is recited following the morning and evening prayers. So this is a prescription by the scholar. He, he and his followers would recite this after morning and evening prayers. Okay. And maybe we can start from there. Why? What is the point of what is the importance of morning and evening prayers? And the way I see it is related to this checking the balances of your life, doing the accounting, self-reckoning, reckoning. So let's start from there. The morning prayer, evening prayer. The author is suggesting that, you should read this, there is no God but God, He is one, He has no partner, and so on. Or let's say, think about it, contemplate about it after every morning and evening prayer. He says this is really important for you. You should do that. The question is why? Let's start from there, inshallah. But I guess to understand this, maybe we should say a few things about the morning prayer and the evening prayer. You what? I mean, at least unconsciously raising your hand. So, alhamdulillah.
Talking about the accounting, and the sort of like what was mentioned in the introduction about belief being contained within knowledge, belief being contained within love, contained within knowledge. Do I have that backwards?
Belief.
No, knowledge, sir.
Knowledge and love.
Okay, so that actually is more accurate to what I was gonna say. Belief, knowledge, and then love. So it feels like when you're saying this in the morning and evenings, that's you proclaiming your belief. So what is on your tongue? What are you saying? You're professing this, but the question is, has it reached your heart? So that's what you're checking, is that a difference between what is on your tongue, what is it that you say, versus what is actually in your heart. So it's when you're saying this in the morning or evenings, you're checking if what is, what you've shown outwardly is truly what you've absorbed and what you're actually living in internally. So that's where I think the account is, and that when you're doing that, you're kind of confronted to say by your tongue these words, and then to check whether that's actually there in your heart and whether it's reached your heart. And you've reached that point of actually going from knowledge to belief to love.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, great points. Oh, Zarin, yeah. Oh, maybe you should hand it to Yusuf. Let Yusuf start first, and then we can continue with Zarin, inshallah.
So this also means, like, for example, I sometimes feel like, I arrived to that conclusion and it is safe and sound in me. But by putting this check to the beginning and end of day and proclaiming it by tongue, it's a reminder for myself to really see, am I on that path? Because once you speak something out, sometimes it sounds weird. Like, for example, if I say, I love my country, let's say, do I really love my country? Sometimes those words sound weird and awkward when I speak it out, because I listen to myself when I say it, do I really mean it?
When was the last time you paid your taxes in your country?
So the same thing is because I tend to feel like, oh yeah, I believe in God, especially if I am born into a Muslim environment and whatnot. I feel like, yeah, I am already saved, like I'm going to paradise. But when I utter such a sentence, it makes me question myself, because if I'm not really there, either it will sound like I am just repeating something without feeling anything, which is in the first place an awkward thing. I should say, well, I'm not even feeling a single thing when I uttered that word. But apparently, as you made the introduction, it should be really like when I say, I love you, mom, I do feel something out of that. But if I say, I love my country, I don't feel anything really. Therefore, the second sentence don't really mean it. And if I don't feel anything, then it's a red flag for me to realize. So this sort of repetitions of remembrance, like dhikr, in this sense, is an opportunity to, in general, check myself. Same thing applies with my prayers. If my prayers are like, the prayers are there for me to remember, to recollect what I was up to. If I don't feel anything, if it's becoming a lip service, these are just red flags for myself to be conscious about. And then putting this to the beginning and end of the day is, we can also put it to the beginning of life, end of life. These are all reminders of that. Like beginning of day, end of day is a reminder for beginning of life, end of life, beginning of youth, end of youth. So it reminds us all those transitions. So in all of those transitions, do I confirm what those 11 words within that phrase really mean? Do I see that La ilaha illallah has a relevance in the morning, it has a relevance in the darkness of the night? So these are the type of things that you should be reminding me of. And as we were also today discussing at Drexel, I think it's a good comparison to compare this to love of mother, since it's something real for us. And when we say that word, it means something to me. So these words that we recited here, do they mean something for me, at least as much as I love you, mom phrase? It should be much more than that, of course, but just as a comparison, do I feel anything, or does it make any change in my life in this regard?
So you said beginning and end of the day, and inshallah we will come back to that part. This is to me at least very important, inshallah. Zonia.
Yeah, I was going to I guess touch on some similar points as well about like how the transition between like the morning to evening can reflect different parts of just like our life in general, and beginning of things and ends of things. But I guess another thing that I was thinking about, sort of relating to the significance of like the recitation during the morning and evening prayers, is that I guess like the morning prayer kind of sets the tone for your entire day. So sort of like what you like think about or what you do during those early morning hours can sort of set like the entire day for you. So that's why like doing that dhikr in the morning I think is important. And then in the evening, it's I think of that as like a time to sort of reflect on what you've done during the day. So again, it can serve as another reminder. Oh, did I do so and so during the day? Did I remember God, that God is one during the day? So I feel like the way I thought about it was kind of like a pre-test, like the morning prayer is like a pre-test, and then your day is like the test, and then the evening prayer is like a post-test type of thing where you go through your day, sort of like, again, like checking, reminding yourself. But those specific like times serve as really good reminders, because that's when I feel like that's when you're also like more sort of like by yourself, like you're not surrounded by like the busyness of like whatever routine you have to go through, whether you go to a job or you have to go to classes or something. It's in those hours I think that you're also really just kind of with your own thoughts type of a thing. So I feel like those are times where you can really sort of reflect on things more deeply. than you could throughout like the entire day. So I think that's sort of the importance of those two times in particular, like reciting the sentence, the phrases.
Jazakallah khairan. Any other comments, points? You don't have to, when I look at you, you don't have to look somewhere else. I will not.
The students like out of my brain after.
No comments? Okay, you can give it. So beginning and end of the day, by the way, these morning and evening prayers, the author is referring to the Fajr and Maghrib, the morning, and not the Isha, but the Maghrib. And the reason for that, so he's not talking about the first prayer and the last prayer. He's talking about two milestones of the day, of the life. The sun is rising, or moments before the sunrise, and the moments before the sunset. Okay? So beginning and the end of the life, beginning and end of the day. You can also look from a more, let's say, spiritual perspective, and think about the spiritual value these two times have, and then also check your feelings, how you feel during that time of the times of the day, and so on and so forth. But the point that I want to make, which is also related to what you said, Sarah, the worship, the belief, the practicality of the belief, and so on. So the speech of God, when we say speech of God, we usually take only Quran, right? But the speech of God comes to us in different forms. One is the revelation, Quran. The other one is the creation around us, the physical manifestation of the same speech. What we have, what we feel, what we desire, and so on inside. And our ideas, and so on and so forth. Everything that's being created are part of the speech. And our belief should follow the same structure. And what I mean with that, so there must be these practical, physical manifestations of our belief as well. This is how everything is being created in life. Like there's a change in our life, two milestones, the morning and the evening, and then there are two prayers accompanying them. And so the way the creation is ordained, and the way the creation, our deen, religion is structured, they follow each other perfectly. Okay? So whatever we have in religion, there is always an aspect of it which looks at something in our lives. Also another aspect that looks at something like among the belief matters. Okay? They always come together. Hence, when we say belief in God cannot be something that you have in your mind. It cannot be. Because if you are talking about the same God who creates everything, that belief in God should mean, you have something in your mind, but at the same time, you have something in your actions as well. This is what belief in God means. So worship, ubudiyah, and just iman, belief, they are not, these separated things. So when author says this is the highest aim, the belief in God, oneness of the God, and so on, it comes almost like a package. Just like, everything about your life comes as a package. You pray in the morning and the sun, follows you. You pray in the evening, sun follows you. So there's always connection, what's going on outside, what's going on inside, and what you do. Please, where is the microphone?
So I think in this belief would be there, but I wouldn't be benefiting from it, because that conviction should be saving me from my worries, and I have as big worries as I want everything. Like human has this desire for everything, and I have a lot of fears. I'm getting old, like my loved ones are dying, I am dying, so on and so forth. I might have this belief. If you ask me, do you believe? And I can maybe make you proof that God must exist. So belief is there, but I'm not benefiting from it. So how do I benefit from that? Through worship, by reminding me myself of that conviction. Then I would say, oh yeah, I had this tool which would solve that problem. So let me put it into a solution. So this is why belief is a remedy. But how does this remedy benefit me? It benefits me as I make use of it or utilize it through worship. So without worship, I will see either minimal to no benefit of my iman. That's why that portion, and dhikr in this sense is a way of worship. It's a reminder. So this, even uttering those words, so it's a reminder to myself.
And so at least the way I understand, so everybody may read the same historical fact in a different way, but the way I understand, the first generation of scholars, they studied the universe, right? But for that very reason, not to studying the universe like we do right now, for instance. We do sciences. Why? Because we do sciences. That's it's like a circular thing. Just to know about the universe. Why? Because knowing of the universe is good. Like it will benefit us. There are some utilitarian, the perspectives and so on. Like we will conquer the nature. We will, extract some minerals, whatever. But beyond that, no point. So the first generation of the scholars, the Islamic scholars, they studied the universe heavily. Even, more than us today. But the point was to seeing these parallels. How the course of sun actually, tells us something about our religion. What happens outside, what happens inside, and how they relate to each other, and how the revelation, the Quran, explained them together to benefit us, so that we reach the love of God. That was the point, to reaching the love of God. Knowing the sun itself, it's not like, who cares, sun? But when I say, you pray in the morning and sun rises, then when you see the connection, when you see how your belief in God reflected outside in the universe, glorified by sun as well, and you say, okay, I must study this. Again, so that you reach the love of God. So that was the point. Otherwise, again, there's no point. They were not scientists. They were studying universe to better understand themselves, better understand their religion.
If I can play with the words, they were scientists with the word S-C-I-N, science, but they were not looking for signs of the one to what they point to. They were just looking at the thing themselves, but we should be people of sign. That's what they refer to. So I guess this is how it would be a proper reading.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, it continues with, I'm passing this greatest name part. If you want to say anything about that, you are free to do that. I'm passing it because of my lack of, the understanding. It says it consists of 11 phrases, each of which conveys both some good tidings and the degree in the unity of dominicality. So they include both a sign of tawheed, the dominicality or unity, but more important, they bear some good tidings, good news, right? Bushra. So that's, to me, and like every time I read such things from this scholar, I really say, Alhamdulillah, may Allah be pleased with him. Radiallahu anhum. So the good news, and he says the good news is in what? There is no God but God. La ilaha illallah. And la sharika lahu. Or wahdahu. They have good news. And good news, what I understand is, these movies that the characters, the Lord of the Rings, for instance, right? The characters are in a terrible situation. They almost, gone. And then they hear some voices, like these, what is it? Sorry? Riders of the rock. Okay. These riders, yeah. Or eagles, yeah. They hear this, the sounds, the good news. It's coming. Help is coming. Sorry? Nazgul. Okay. Oh no, this is bad news. This is bad. No, we're talking about the good news. The Gandalf, the white. Now he turned to white, and the raising his the Asa stuff. And the lights are coming from the back of the mountain, and the people now, seeing the lights coming, excited, the good news, right? The help is coming. So he's talking about that. So in your life, you are lost. The moderator is so boring that, I'm sleepy. The text is not helping either. And I need help, right? And then you hear a good news, right? Life is miserable. You just had a fight with your supervisor or your boss. They want to change your department without even asking to you, or something happened, right? You had a fight with your wife, your children, your parents, they don't understand you. You out of money, whatever, right? Everything that, like the things that we face almost every day, and you say, La ilaha illallah, and as if, after a long period of thirst, somebody gave you the water, or showed you the water first, and you received the good news. Such a thing, La ilaha illallah. And to be honest, like this is the first time I hear such thing. For me, the La ilaha illallah was always something I have to repeat and then understand so that I can use it as an argument, for instance. But when I have a fight with my parents, thinking about La ilaha illallah or La sharika lahu wouldn't help me at all. But the author says, it will, it can. That's the point. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time, studying it. It should be good news. It should be the eagles coming, the Gandalf coming, right? I tried to find a reference from the Star Wars, but I couldn't come up with, sorry. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. La ilaha illallahu wahdahu la sharika lahu lahul mulku wa lahul hamdu yahyi wa yumitu wa huwa hayyu la yamutu biyadihi الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير وإليه المصير. Okay, we discussed about how all these words that we just articulated bears good news. They save us from our miseries, and inshallah we will start seeing how this happens when we start with the main text. Before going to the main text, are there any points, comments about this intro part? Otherwise I will start reading the introduction. Okay, let's go there, inshallah. So I will read it very quickly just to remind, but we don't need to study word by word. Be certain of this, that the highest aim of creation and its most important result is belief in God. The most exalted rank in humanity and its highest degree is the knowledge of God contained within belief in God. The most radiant happiness and sweetest bounty for jinn and human beings is the love of God contained within the knowledge of God. The most radiant happiness and the sweetest bounty. So that's what we're trying to reach. And the purest joy for the human spirit and the sheerest delight for man's heart is the rapture of the spirit contained within the love of God. Yes, all true happiness, pure joy, sweet bounties, and untroubled pleasure lie in the knowledge of God and love of God. They cannot exist without them. So that's the main point, at least to me. True happiness, pure joy, sweet bounties, untroubled pleasure. So almost all our pleasures are troubled. What it means, like we are about to get a pleasure, something happens. We get the pleasure and then we feel guilty.
Too much sugar.
Too much sugar, yeah, right? Sorry? Cholesterol, right? This is not a good example. I was about to give an example from marriage. No. So the marriage is untroubled pleasure. So anyway, everything in our lives is, right? The troubled pleasure. And the author says, the only way to have untroubled pleasure is through knowledge of God, love of God. They cannot exist, he says. It's not like, oh, this is one way. Another way to following some other ideologies or practicing some other thing. No. It says they cannot exist. You can take it as a bold claim, or inshallah we will study why this is the case. The person who knows and loves God Almighty may receive endless bounties, happiness, lights, and mysteries, while the one who does not truly know and love Him is afflicted spiritually and materially by endless misery, pain, and fears. So please don't take this as like a binary or categorical thing, meaning, oh, I do believe in God, Hence, there is no misery or pain and fear for me because I'm a Muslim. But rather take it as, a changing state of yours. In the moments where you forget God, and let's be honest, we keep forgetting God all the time. In the moments of forgetting, there's misery and pain, he says. Okay? So it applies to you as well. Even if such an important, miserable person owned the whole world, even if you own the whole world, it would be worth nothing for him. For it would seem to him that he was living a fruitless life among the vagrant human race in a wretched world without owner or protector. This is the summary of our century. Like, we are living among the vagrant human race, this terrible place called Earth. We should try to find a better place. We should try to find a better race. Right? We should make the human race better and so on. That's how we live.
Live in the metaverse.
Metaverse, yeah, exactly. Everyone may understand just how forlorn and baffled is man among the aimless human race in this bewildering, fleeting world if he does not know his owner, if he does not discover his master. But if he does discover and know him, he will seek refuge in his mercy and will rely on his power. The desolate world will turn into a place of recreation and pleasure. It will become a place of trade for the hereafter. Then he will start studying each phrase, and the first phrase is, "There's no God but God." There he will explain, in more detail how your painful life, miserable life, transforms into a sweet life with endless joy and happiness through "There's no God but God." Okay, I'm stopping here to listen, Atik, inshallah. And where is microphone? Okay. Now I can get my chocolate, by the way.
But I guess the last sentence stood out to me, that the desolate world will turn into a place of recreation and pleasure and become a place of trade for the hereafter. I guess I understand that maybe through the world becoming a place of trade for the hereafter, that it becomes a place of that itself, the trade itself is the recreation of pleasure. But besides that, it seems kind of opposed, right? Kind of opposite. Like you see godless people generally seeking the world or seeking from the world recreation and pleasure. And then maybe more godly people are shunning that aspect of the world for the sake of maybe a simpler, humbler type of existence. So I don't know, how would you reconcile the two perspectives?
Fantastic point. So the author says the world will turn into a place of recreation and pleasure. But usually, are you raising your hand or just play? Okay. Usually when we talk about the religion and belief, we assume the religion will turn our world into a silence and simplicity and nothing. and you have to wait for hereafter to get the pleasure. Any comments about that? Or yeah, please, and the microphone, please. Like a piece of cheap, the gadget.
Yeah, I think it's Atik brought my attention to this sentence, and at first it was a little confusing, like the desolate world will turn into a place of recreation, and then at the same time it's like, okay, then why would you want to treat it for the hereafter? That's the thing, like if you think about like people wanting to like if you think the world is desolate, of course you want to treat it for the hereafter because you want something that's better than but that's sort of like the idea that the world becomes you do gain pleasure from the world when you seek in when you seek refuge in Allah. At the same time, like your consciousness is at a level where you want to trade this pleasure for like the pleasure of the hereafter. I guess that's just my thought.
Alhamdulillah. So this trade for hereafter, it reminded me, so sometimes you get lost in the video games, especially when you are collecting something, right? When you are collecting, let's say, I don't know, the power, stamina, whatever, the levels, you cannot stop playing, right? He just nodded. He said, I was fishing. Who plays video games? And so, right? Not others, but you. So if there's a point, if there's a goal, like we like it. If there's no point, no goal, you just, keep playing and nothing happens, nothing improves or nothing new happens, you just get bored. In the same way, like when we look at this world as an aimless place, and most of the times we do that. We say, there's no goal, there's no purpose. We just need to, extract as much as pleasure within the moment as we can, and the rest is just pointless. When we see the world in this way, it really becomes a miserable place, right? And you can understand why some people cannot take it and end their lives. The life becomes a source of joy and pleasure only when there's a point, when there's a purpose. And trade for hereafter, at least to me from one perspective, means you see there's a purpose behind everything. That's what I understand from hereafter, trade for hereafter. You can also take it as what happens to you after you die, and you get ready for it. But also within the moment, you see that there's a purpose that I'm going through, that I'm trying to reach. There's a goal. There's a call for me, and I'm aiming for this goal, right? This is trading for hereafter, seeing the purpose and acting accordingly. So with every action of yours, there's a point, there's a goal now. There's the end goal. To gain something. To getting closer to your Rabb, for instance. Right? And with every step you get closer. It gives pleasure to every step because there's an end goal there. So there's something that you gain out of it. Oh, please.
I'd like to take it back to the beginning. You said we were having a discussion there. First, just an anecdote for when you start to be certain of this. This reminds me of the very first word of Surah Ikhlas, Qul huwallahu ahad, to say. So the say in there is that certainty. In order to be able to say that there is no God but God and what that is in Surah Ikhlas, you have to be certain about it. So the command in there saying that say this
is inviting me to be certain about what is to come. An author in here is saying, be certain about this. Say that first, these are things that I should and could be certain about, and I should be certain about that if I would like the comfort that he's inviting me to. But then he talked about this for with like heliocentric or what's it? Center inside center thing. So concentric. Okay, so we have a math major here. So highest aim of creation and its most important result is belief in God. He's not exclusively saying that highest aim of my creation, but it is saying that highest aim of creation and its most important result is belief in God. So if I ask the question, what is the point of the most important point of creation of sun? Belief in God, meaning it's made, sun is created so that belief in God, I mean, this is the purpose. If I ask the question, why is the Penn campus made? What is the greatest purpose of Penn campus being made, Drexel campus being made for education? And that sort of thing. Creation of everything, including me in that campus, is for education. So here, creation of everything is not for me to just chill out, have some barbecue. It is for me.
This is for Princeton. They're chilling out, you know, the barbecue.
So, putting belief in there, in this sense, is an interesting thing. Like, and the purpose of existence altogether, saying that it is for the goal of that thing is. And I think asking that question, is it really good? When I look at the creation, I see that, like when you look at the campus, looking at the dormitories and then the gym and then classrooms and everything, you say that this place is made for education. So when I look at the existence itself, I mean, the sun rising, while earthquakes happening, like a spring, nice breeze of the spring and raining, as well as tornado that's happening. So I see that the utmost purpose, the highest aim of the creation, and me in that creation is Iman. This is the purpose of that existence. I think this is as if the author is depicting the creation as a classroom, but saying that, but saying that the utmost goal of being on that campus is Iman.
Even such a depiction itself, like while just listening to you, giving me pleasure, like taking the entire creation as a purposeful thing, trying to tell me something. Everywhere I look, I see a message there. Everywhere I look, I see that there must be a purpose for that. There must be a reason sun, follows such a path. The relationship between moon and sun, there must be a reason, there must be a purpose. Just looking with such a glasses to the creation is joyful itself, rather than everything happening accidentally and I'm just trying to make sense of it. It's a huge burden.
As we were looking up in that sentence, all those different shape and color of fishes, like one of them was swimming upside down with all the different colors. They were all different, beautiful colors of the coral reefs and whatnot. As it's saying that faceless, like this, as if everything is inviting or pointing to my maker. So looking at it from that perspective, I mean, this and this and this, because as we were having a conversation, we said as if it's just making fun of it. That's obvious of that thing. Like, still don't you see? I want to point everything, and the maker is saying that it points to me. In a sense, let's say you come to home, and then your beautiful wife just exaggerating. She just did all different types of everything and whatnot, and then has written everything like "I love you" in a different tone everywhere. I mean, he's shouting at you that I love you, but not only 1, 2, 3, but 50 different ways. My creator in this creation is thinking that here I am, look at me, find me. So this is why I was saying that the highest aim is this. This is what everything is made for. So I see it as such. When I see an obstacle in life, there's also part of the deal. Do I see it as my creator is inviting me to find him, the highest aim? And this is where this is why La ilaha illallah would eventually take me there. Because when bad things happen, I'm going to blame the comfort zone. So still, La ilaha illallah is there for us to get. So that's why I wanted to just highlight that it's not only my creation, but everything's created.
Alhamdulillah. Were you listening to? I mean, so that was a call. Oh, you want to say something? Adi?
This is you said you saw a fish swimming upside down. I don't know if I've ever seen it. That's what you thought. I thought that was the most amazing thing.
Microphone off. Well, anyway, yeah, you want to make a comment? Okay.
I keep saying the purpose for making Drexel was to educate. Now that purpose in itself isn't like an inherent trait of Christian Drexel. That purpose only makes sense with respect to me or students that go there. If there are no students, the creation of Drexel is meaningless. So does that mean, by the same analogy, that if there is no need to observe the sun, does that make the sun a user creation? Or does the sun have an inherent purpose? And that purpose is belief in God. Essentially, what it is belief in God is inherent purpose is the defeat and the purpose.
You just gave a perfect argument for the existence of angels.
But the thing is, the question is about the sun is just taking sun for example. Is the existence of sun an independent existence that is for the purpose of the belief in God? Does that the belief in God only makes sense with respect to my existence? Because if I'm not there, does the belief in God make sense for the sun?
Please go ahead, Yusuf. I mean, it was directed to you.
I mean, to comment, actually, yes, within that existence, so Drexel campus is for education as long as there are students. If there's no students, then yeah, health is pointless. So living in this campus of existence, what is the point of making this campus is Iman. My Iman in this sense, you're right. But not only my existence, but the existence of the whole campus is for Iman. I think this is.
Then what about creation they don't know, expanding every 20 meters? Like, I don't know, it's really the exact same job. We haven't explored, like, I don't know, parts of the ocean or something. There's a lot of creation we don't even know about. What purpose is left out in respect of my Iman or my relative or my wife?
Terms of worship. So my Iman is eventually going to take me to knowing my creator, loving my creator, and having this joy, and worshiping is going to be there, which should make me ask the question, am I alone in this existence when it comes to belief, worship of the creator? How about the deep ocean? How about the other side of the moon, which I have never seen, but is being created? So what is the point in there? This is where I would also say I'm not alone in this existence when it comes to appreciating my maker. And if we look at it from prophetic lens, when prophet mentions human has 300 something angels who are responsible for the human, what would that mean if I think about it this way? I have some bones which I do not even know of its existence somewhere over here. It's part of me. I'm not even aware of it. But I do sense some of the things that are being created on me, but I'm not thankful about the bone over here because I don't even know it's there. So consciousness is not only must not be a valid thing only for human being. There must be conscious worshippers, appreciators of this existence. And I can conclude to that because I am here, I am part of that campus, and I do get education. And I do see that there is another building over there, part of campus, and there's no human student over there. But
the one who made the campus made that building, but does not let human students to go there. So there must be, I cannot deny, I shouldn't be, if I am a sane person, I shouldn't say that, oh, it's just empty. I should say there must be different inhabitants. Here in the side of the campus, like we breathe air and we drink water, maybe they drink air and breathe water, which is the fish, right? So these sort of things are happening in this existence, but we tend to think that we humans are the only appreciators of our creator. How about the fish? How about the cow and bee? And these are all topics of Quran, right? Quran wants us to be observing that they are worshippers of the creator. That's why the topic of angel is being raised in Quran, as the whole creation is everywhere must exist conscious worshippers of the creator. And this is, again, if we take it back to story of Adam alayhi salam, the conversation between Adam, angels and the creator now makes more sense, because the whole creation says, we do appreciate and worship you. Why are you creating those human beings who are going to shed blood on earth, right? So now it is now fitting into place better.
I just find it interesting that you said that like the purpose of creation is belief in God, because I remember I was discussing something with my colleagues in the lab, and one of them is like he was like raised Catholic, but now he's an atheist, and we were discussing the same things, and he said the same reasons, like the same things that believers say that drives them to believe in God, and they think they are evidence to the belief in God, are the same reasons why atheists don't believe in God. Like, you know, we see tornadoes and wars and diseases and all of that as an evidence, but they see that as an evidence that there's no God, you know. So why, what would I say like to someone who like says such things? Yeah.
So, I mean, it's they deny. So the idea of denial is, because atheism is denial, right? So, for example, a tornado or a child, innocent child being killed in an accident or something. So there is an imaginary God, and then they say, if this imaginary God, there must be a shape or form we gave to this imaginary God, which would never allow an innocent child to be killed. And if you see an innocent child being killed, and in response to that, then they say, oh, this thing cannot exist. Probably, yes, this thing, I also deny that thing that they are denying, because a God which wouldn't allow an innocent child to be killed might be super merciful and whatnot, but unwise maybe. Like the creator is all wise, all knowing, all loving, all caring, and everything at the same time. And what such a mindset would consider as a contradiction might truly be nonsense. So rightfully, they might be denying that. But the point is, I need to observe what's happening, not what is not happening. So I need to look at the existence itself, not the non-existence. So what do I observe in here? So this is why actually we are going to talk about you meet, for example, because ultimately an innocent child being killed is where you meet. It is the one who gives death. The one who gives death, how is that going to be a source of joy for us? Because death is not non-existence. This is why where you meet is emphasized over here. It's not like he is the giver of life, and then death happens by itself. No, this phrase is saying that where you meet, he is the one that gives death. Death is a creation. Death is an existence. How come death is an existence? Look at the seed. When you put seed is dying, seed is rotting, and a plant is coming out of it. So death of seed is the birth of this lively creature, the plant. So death and life in this sense is coming one after the other. Observe this and tell, what does that mean? Because we are just focusing on some aspect of things just within the vacuum. Don't look what comes before, what comes after, like this innocent child being killed in an accident.
Where is it coming from? Where is it going to? Like, is it okay for an old person to die in a bed? That's totally fine. And then a child being killed under a car is bad. So generally what we are upset about is I have this feeling which hurts when I see this baby being killed, and I say this is bad. At that moment, rather than focusing on this, I should ask the question, where does this feeling of upsetness come from? Does it mine? Because we do attribute it to ourselves. So these are the proper questions that are needed to be asked rather than taking it for granted. I am the merciful person. This is why I'm feeling bad. It's my feeling. I created that feeling, which are all baseless. Then blaming or saying that, oh, if a merciful one existed, he wouldn't allow this. How about this mercy? Where did this mercy come from? Because I was feeling bad about it, right? Where did this one come from? So this mercy is being created in me. By whom? Where does it come from? The one who doesn't exist gives it. So based on the existence of this feeling, I need to talk about it. So I guess the conversation needs to be happening through existence rather than denying an imaginary God, because at the end of the day, I need to look at what exists and then see what it refers to. The existing thing in this scene is my feeling of pity towards this child, and I need to ask, where did this come from? So I think this is part of the story, but anything else?
One of my teachers, once she said, they always ask, how do you explain a child killed if there's a God? And she said, I don't understand. How would you explain a dying child without God? Like something is happening. Is it that or flower, like a flower opening? Doesn't matter. Something is happening. There's an action there. Something is changing from one state to another state, one existence to another existence. Something is there, something is not there, or something was not there and now it is there. How do you explain this without the God? So we are usually fooled with, this emotion, as he said, Yusuf said, emotions surrounding the events. And we forget about the events themselves. Like something happened. And when we look at Quran, so it's another, like, I think to me, it is a big mistake to think that the belief in God is rooted in extraordinary events like the hurricanes and whatever. The examples Quran gives are extremely ordinary things. Don't you see at the rain? Don't you see at the plants? Don't you see at the wing of the fly? Like this tiny thing, useless, like or worthless thing for most of us. The wing of a fly. God says, don't you see it? So if we believe in God because some extraordinary things happen, some huge, powerful things, I mean, they do for sure, contribute. But if this is why we believe in God, then we should take some step backs and go to the tiniest things, whatever tiniest things is for you, and look for God there. Every single action, just the vibration of one thing, just one atom and its vibration, just one electron and its vibration, if you are studying this. If not, if you are interested in plants, you just put a seed and tomato comes. This is where you will find your God. Or just look at yourself. You were young, now you are old. How do you explain this without God? There's always a purpose. There's always a goal there. Please, you can take this.
And just to add my own comment, and I'm not saying this is what the atheist person you talked to said, but something that triggers me maybe the most is such questioning of how can a God exist when a child is dying, or how can a God exist when you see all this suffering? And then right after that, you're like, okay, what's the solution? Like, there's no God, there's no point. It's all meaningless. And then I come right back to the second sentence here, where now I live in a world where there is no purpose, and now I'm in endless misery, endless pain, endless fears. So you've taken me because you're like, oh, life looks so terrible. How can this be true? Because of your own, maybe something doesn't make sense to you, and now you're saying there must be no God, and then you're putting me, the solution you're giving me is to fall further into pain or misery. And it's also a question I ask myself a lot of times when something happens. It's like, how could God do this to me? Did God abandon me? How can there be such a God? So it's not just atheists or others. It's something I always also find myself in. But then I think that's where the importance of also like seeing how can you explain a child's death without God? Like if there isn't a meaning in a child dying before me, then I would lose my mind. I wouldn't have a sanity on this world. I'd have to go into alcohol and drugs and distractions or whatever else can find, or else I'd lose my sanity when a child dies before me. And I think this is where the importance of La ilaha, or the greatest names or whatever is being taught here, is I am seeking for something that now would make sense, like give some meaning to all these things that are happening around me. And I think that's kind of the purpose of why those things exist. An earthquake is a very big example of it, or a child dying. It like shakes me. It's like, hey, why do you exist? But then it makes me go back to like the smallest things. Like in Ramadan, I might, eat a date after I fast, and the date could be the most amazing thing for me. Something I almost ignored now has meaning, and it gives me pleasure. Just a comment.
I just wanted to add a comment after that. I think what is often thought of, at least what one of the many voices, at least one of them in my head thought of when you started speaking, is that, well, a bleak truth, a miserable truth might be better than a sort of comforting falsehood. But here again, I think we have to always take into account human feelings, like approaching the human being holistically. And I think part of the Quranic approach is to ensure that whatever is being proposed, claimed, goes through the filter of my reasoning. It makes sense to me. And then also, once it's gone through, let's say, the filtering of my reasoning, I have to see if it appeases my heart, my human expectations, my human needs, right? And part of those needs, as you mentioned, is meaningfulness, mercy, purposefulness. And I think that's also the difference between, let's say, for lack of better wording, a sort of secular approach versus what I see as the Quranic approach, which is approaching the human being in terms of all of their needs, one of which is my reasoning and making sense of things according to rationality, but also all these other human feelings that expect to be satisfied in the face of experiences and events.
Yeah, I think the problem here is that like a lot of people who approach problems like children starving or children suffering approach them from their own filters of what is moral and what is immoral. So you already have this preconceived notion of morality. So a child suffering to you is immoral. And because you're looking at it from that filter, you say, oh, but this thing is immoral, so God doesn't exist because God can't be immoral or whatever. I think in the context of that, it is very important. Like the first sentence is, there is no God but God. So I think to see things from like this viewpoint of there is nothing, there is no God, and then saying, but Allah. So I think that sort of tells me that I need to stop viewing this world from my own filters. At first, I need to look at it from a point of view of there is nothing.
and then I need to seek my answer with Allah instead of saying, oh, I'm going to approach it with my own knowledge because I think I'm so smart, and because like I'm going to believe Western philosophy of what's wrong and what's right, and I'm going to approach it from that point of view. I think that's sort of the problem that's at play here.
Jazakallah. Okay, there are a few comments. Let me read them if you don't mind. Suhail says, why feel upset about a dying child if there's no God, but if there's no God and it is purely random? He says, yeah, if things are happening just by pure chance, you just accept it and go with it. And Hatija says, if I don't make sense of the existence of death, the death of a child is equally morbid as the death of an elderly person. Okay, so I mean, as much as I like to discuss more about this, because it's not the main point in the text, so if you don't mind, I will skip this part and go back to La ilaha illallah. And so the La ilaha illallah, other places author studies it in more detail. And I mean, we will come to that when we read the first point, but maybe just as a sneak peek. So La ilaha illallah is at the center of the whole revelation. Okay? It's at the core, and it is best explained by the ayahs telling us the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he shows that in order to find true creator or truth, the bleak truth you said, yeah. In order to find it, what is right, what is wrong, you have to first eliminate all the falsehood. So the La ilaha part is just saying that, oh, can sun be the source of this creation? And say that, no, oh, it sets, it cannot be. And then saying that, oh, can moon be the source of the creation? The stars? How about my father? How about the dark matter? How about some gravity, the force of gravity? How about this? How about that? And realizing that none of them can do anything. None of them can be the source of anything that you question. The wing of a fly. And then realizing that you need an absolute being, Allah, to be the source. So this is what I understand from La ilaha illallah. So start from eliminating all the false idols and then find out God. So any discussion about God, the existence of God and Iman billah, the belief in God, must start from eliminating the false idols. So if somebody comes and tell you that, whoa, you believe in God, but God, you should say, what God are you talking about? Let's start from there. And I'm sure the God that you describe, I don't believe either. So La ilaha part needs to come first. You cannot start from Allah. First, you have to eliminate all other false idols. And the question is how, this is the key. I mean, we will again study this next week, inshallah, but to have some take-home message from this week discussions again as well. So the question is how such a belief, La ilaha illallah, transforms our untroubled pleasures into pleasures. troubled pleasures into untroubled pleasures. So that's the question. And who? Oh, you want to say something? No.
No, I was just thinking of when you mentioned the star and the moon and the sun. Like, it made me think of, obviously, Ibrahim alayhi salam's narrations of Ibrahim alayhi salam in the Quran. And, you know, in the verse that mentions him in Surah Al-An'am, it says when darkness covered the night, right? And then he saw the star, and then he said, "This is my Rabb." And then the star set, and then he said, you know, "La uhibbu al-afilin," like I do not love those that set or that sets. And he goes through this process with the moon and the sun. And I believe we discussed these verses some other time, perhaps in one of these halakas. But I think it shows a very experiential nature of La ilaha illallah, right? That it's not just this sort of theoretic truth, but in my life, there will be darkness, and I will attach myself to false Rabbs or things that I feel will sustain me, things that I feel will meet my need. I'll say, oh, if only this thing happens, then my worries will go away. If only this problem is resolved in my life, if this person helps me, if, you know, I get this job or I fix this relationship, then all my worries will be resolved. But then I realize that thing, even if momentarily it seems to be the solution, like it itself, that person themselves is dependent. I recognize through the experience alone that it sets, that it can't resolve all of my needs, that my needs remain after that event, right? Or even during that event. So I think that this truth of there is no God but God is just sort of constant experiential truth that I have to witness and then confirm and declare. And my experiences in life will constantly lead me to recognizing it. And I'll just say with this one more, in allusion to my previous comment, like, and I remember specifically us discussing this some other time, like Ibrahim alayhi salam says, La uhibbu, right? Like I do not love it. He can reason that, okay, something that sets cannot be his sustainer, but also his human feelings are not satisfied there. And so just like this conjoining, this bringing together of, as a human being, I need to be satisfied in all of my faculties and all of my expectations.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
So now she just said like La ilaha is an experiential thing. But the thing is, like, intuition really backs on experiences, right? So like
intuition. So
intuition really backs on your experiences. Like just 2 days ago, she was asking me how my knees are, and I said, since I started taking the meds, the pain has gone away. And she said, you just committed implicit shirk, like, because that does make sense, because like I started taking my experiences, like intuitively started taking meds and the pain goes away. But then that's what I think about it consciously, that it is in contradiction to La ilaha, because I am associating meds as my ilah at that point in time. So how do we retrain our intuition to say or to witness the La ilaha instead of, you know, because what I'm experiencing currently is I take meds, pain goes away. That's what's happening. But intuition gets stronger and stronger and back to those experiences. So how do I retrain my intuition?
I think I understand your question. The part I don't understand is your intuition seems, with your example at least, seems to remind you La ilaha illallah. Like because like your experience ended with the La ilaha illallah, didn't it?
Yes.
So what is the problem there?
But the thing was, that wasn't my initial response. When she first asked me about my knees, where I was like, I didn't say like, because of Allah, my pain is gone. I was like, I started taking the meds and the pain has disappeared.
No, I understand this part, but to me, like, and then I understand that you want to give this as a first response.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, but to me, actually, what you experienced, it's a perfect training of how to reach La ilaha illallah, or how to, practice La ilaha illallah. you did a mistake, and your mistake reminded you, what needs to be there, and you sought refuge to God from that, and you reach your round. To me, this is how humans function, and I don't see any mistake or wrong there. But I understand that, you wish that the first response would be La ilaha illallah. And it's like, when you first start learning a new language or reading a new alphabet, you always make mistakes. But these mistakes themselves actually part of the learning. So they are not mistakes. They are not glitches in the system. They are part of the learning. And eventually you become fluent, but you don't, become fluent from the beginning. So that's not the point. The point is making these mistakes, learning from these mistakes, and becoming fluent. Like, to me, without mistakes, there's no becoming fluent. Maybe I'm getting it wrong.
I want to just add something. Taking a lot of liberty in here, but I agree with that. Like, when I also listened, it doesn't seem to me like your intuitions are misguided, right? It seems to me like we repeat the things that are narrated to us. The doctor gives us the medicine, says this will take away your pain, right? But then our intuitions kick in and say this itself cannot be the source of taking away that pain. So there's a difference between perhaps our intuitions or, the voice inside of us that questions it versus the narrations, the ideological sort of oppressions that are given implicitly or explicitly upon us.
Like with almost all prophetic stories in Quran. So we'll start with the Adam alayhi salam, for instance. It's all about, making a wrong choice and then seeking refuge and then, going further, taking further steps and so on and so forth. So we don't see stories like the God, and remember this prophet, he was perfect, and that's great. And then, passing to another story, there's no such thing. Like, we see the training that they've been through, even the prophets, right? From one state to another state, they've been taken. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, for instance, when he practiced La ilaha illallah, the story doesn't go this way, for instance. He looked at the sun and he started loving it. This cannot be my Lord. No. He said, oh, this is my Lord. And then he says, oh, no, it sets. It cannot be my Lord. So through this process, he's convinced that La ilaha illallah. So otherwise, so what you are doing is La ilaha part. You're taking the medicine, feeling good. You're saying that the medicine, gave me the health, and then the qalb or aql kicks in and asks the question: can medicine give you this, the health? And you say La ilaha. At least, again, if I'm not missing something, the being a good Muslim is not directly reaching Allah without La ilaha. It's always La ilaha illallah.
From what he said, it reminded me of, it kind of raised my own questions. I mean, I understand that the mistake is part of the process of La ilaha, and this is part of the learning. But I guess also a mistake makes you fall into, you realize it's a mistake once you feel the misery behind it. Like if I seek refuge in medicine or chemotherapy or something, and then I see that it doesn't help and I still die, then I'd feel the misery off of it, or some other example. So, and if you're like me, where I feel like constant mistakes in my life, or you're constantly in these mistake zones, so like you're constantly in misery, but then you're like, okay, let me try to find God again, or let me try to seek refuge. you can go through this path, but I also think the importance of, like, here we're talking about reciting this morning and evening prayers. You know, there's a physical action, and there's also like an intention to recite, remembering in a physical way that you're reciting something. So instead of needing to fall into this misery, maybe I can recite something or have daily actions or worship, which I do, which reminds me before I go too deep into that wrong state. So I do think, because otherwise I feel like, oh, then if you're saying mistakes, I know this isn't what you're saying, but if mistakes are part of training, then I'm living the perfect Muslim life because I'm making a lot of mistakes and I'm learning from those. But I think it's not a joyful life. It's not as joyful as what the picture is being painted here that I could live, which I think it comes with, am I reciting these remembrances in the morning and the evening, and am I actually thinking about what they mean? And do I have, for example, Ramadan, fasting every day was a very amazing remembrance. But after Ramadan, I felt like there's this void. So maybe these kinds of things I should actually start adding to not fall into those.
This reminded me, the other day I was listening to another scholar. He was saying that in Quran you would find phrases like clean your nafs, right? But you wouldn't see things like don't get dirt on your nafs. There is no such command. So it always clean your nafs, clean your soul. So in Quran you wouldn't see something like, oh, then don't get dirt on your soul, because the human being will get dirt. Your job is not staying clean. Your job is cleaning your dirt, because you will get dirt. So you will become better when you clean them. You perform your duty when you clean them. So to your question, the point is not, getting lost in the mistakes and live such a life and just accept them. No, realizing that they are mistakes and clean. You have to, keep cleaning yourself. You cannot keep yourself clean, but you have to keep cleaning yourself.
Can I say something? I might be wrong, but it's like, so God is the one that's taking your pain away, right? But then I don't think it's wrong to think that God can use like means to do that. So for example, like he is using those medicines to sort of alleviate your pain. So for example, like a person could receive money, and of course he's receiving that money from God, but the wasila could be another person giving him that money. So I do think I think the problem is that you're seeing the wasila as the source of that like pain going away. So you sort of need to fix your idea of who the source is. And then also like how, when we were talking about like food and food sustaining you and how that is wrong, like we talked about how you need to recognize the true owner and then thank the true owner. So you can do that by starting off by saying Bismillah and then saying Alhamdulillah when you feel sustained or whatever. So I think maybe that's one thing you could do with your medicines. Like start off by saying Bismillah before you take them, say Alhamdulillah afterwards, or when you feel like your pain has gone away, to sort of keep remembering that it's Allah who's doing that, and that like constant remembrance, that revision is what will help train you perhaps.
Okay, thanks so much. So if we have a situation in front of us, we're trying to make sense of it. If we start from preconceived ideas about the God, for instance, then we cannot reach anywhere. It's like starting from the conclusion and using it to explain something. It doesn't make much sense. So when we say things like, God does this or God does that. So you're starting from a preconceived idea of God and imagining him doing something, using something, and so on. And this is definitely not La ilaha illallah. This is Allah, therefore La ilaha. So what we are doing here, when we say things like, the God is taking away the pain, but he's using medicine. So this is Allah, therefore La ilaha. This is the opposite of what Quran suggests. So the way Quran suggests is, look at your pain. Look at the medicine. Can medicine take away this pain? We have to ask this question. If we cannot securely say that, no, medicine cannot take away the pain, then there is no reason for Allah. Let's be honest. If medicine can take away the pain, then at least within this process, you don't need to believe in God. Because the ilah, the medicine, can help you there. So you have to start from there, like Ibrahim alayhi salam. You have to start from there. You should look at the pain. You should look at the medicine and see whether it matches or not. You have to do that. That's the La ilaha. And then you have to say that since it cannot be medicine, it must be God. That should be the process. Otherwise, it becomes, again, just repeating ourselves. And every time an atheist, for instance, comes and tells you that for that same reason, I don't believe in God, I would say probably she has a point. Because what I'm believing is that, God gives me the health or takes away the pain, but he's using the medicine. And I would say, why do you need God at the first place then? Since medicine can explain the giving away of the pain.
But then the other side is, okay, why medicine then? Why should you take meds at all? If it's
start from the La ilaha and it will explain itself. It will become clear. Why medicine then? Part will become clear. Because through medicine, you learned about your God.
But then why does God need the medicine to teach me?
Again, you're starting from God, right? You're saying that there's a God and he's trying to teach me. And then what? But if you start from the medicine and where it leads you, then everything will become clear. If you start from God, if you keep starting from God, nothing will be clear.
Because that's a limited God. Like you're imagining a God, which is not ahad, which is not absolute in this case. You're imagining a God which is capable of doing certain things. And then atheist friend of Sarah will come and say, well, such a God cannot happen because there's a contradiction sort of a thing. And that person would be justified in this case. So starting from that imaginary God and trying to define, because in your head or in anybody's head, really we give a shape to that creator in this sense. So it's not being a creator anymore, actually. It's being a creation in this case, which is limited in my understanding. This is why it's not working out in practice. But if I start from what I do observe and see if what is around can explain it, and once I fail, then I would say there must exist a being, but I don't know what he is like. Then you are on the right path to get to know the creator. That's why Abu Bakr radiallahu anh has a very beautiful description of creator we know him in his unknownness. Like description of we knowing him is, he is not knowable in this sense. Knowable meaning putting any boundary around him. This is why it's this is a very important methodological difference. What Birkan is suggesting here is start from what you're experiencing, your existence. Try to see if you can explain that phenomena, which is a new phenomena, like being healed, with potential candidates, medicine, air, your genes, and whatnot. If none of them explains, yet this is a new being over here, the healing, there must be someone who does this, but it's none of them, none of these. This is why all I know about these potential candidates were definitions. One of them was medicine. I can describe medicine. I can describe genes. I can describe this. I can describe that. All my descriptions failed. So undescribable of a source is there, must be there, who healed this. I cannot describe him because my descriptions failed. My describing failed in this sense. This is why we shouldn't start with Allah, but Allah should be our conclusion, I guess, to just summarize what Birkan was saying. I didn't say anything new, but Allah would be our conclusion. I mean, you can ask in this sense, Atiq was reciting, Huwallahu alladhi la ilaha illahu alimul ghaybi wa shahada, and then in Quran, Creator describes him to me. It's another issue. He can talk about himself to introduce him to me in a way that I can understand. But when I am talking, when I'm trying to understand my Creator, starting with his name and then describing wouldn't make sense, wouldn't take me anywhere. I should rather say, this cannot be God, this cannot be God, this cannot be God, or just replace the word God with this cannot be the sustainer, this cannot be the source of mercy, so on and so forth. But he must exist. So he is none of these, but he must exist. This is what ahad in this sense means, really.
So this, what he recited during the prayer, it's a perfect explanation, actually, like how Allah starts describing himself. Allah la ilaha illahu. So if you want to know about the God, he is the one, la ilaha illahu. He is the one, other than him, there is no God. So always starts with la ilaha. So I know this is not only for dua, by the way, like this is first and foremost a reminder to myself. Every time, like with Sarah as well, right? With his example. Every time we have a trouble understanding something about the God, something about the religion, and we, tremble against any argument, with no exception, I claim, with no exception, the problem is always you or the other party starts from God. And imagine he or you knows what he's saying. You say Allah, and you imagine you know what you are referring to, what you are saying. But in Quran, Allah says, you cannot. When you say Allah, Allah is first and foremost like a proper name, like Birkan, right? If you don't know me, for instance, somebody comes and tells you Birkan, it wouldn't mean anything to you. It would only mean something when he starts describing, saying that, oh, Birkan, the one who led the discussion last week, who made this bad joke and then got punished by, his wife. You remember? So that's the bit. Now it makes sense. Now starting talking something about you experienced. So Birkan is not this imaginary guy doing this. And so, no, when he says Birkan, he's referring to joke that you experienced. He's referring to the discussion that you experienced. So you have to start from what's in front of you and start discussing from there. So somebody comes and tells you, but how do you explain the hurricane when there's... Wait a second. Let's start from the hurricane. What do you see there? Forget about God. Start from the hurricane. And let's see what conclusion it will lead us. According to Quran, if you look at the hurricane will say what? Glorify its maker. That's what Quran says, right? This is what we started at the beginning, didn't we? Everything glorifies him. Yeah, in his name be he glorified. And there's nothing but it glorifies him with praise. This is from Quran. So do you know what it means? It means whatever you take in your hand, a hurricane or dying child, it will lead you. There must be a God. If this kid dies this way, in this horrible way, then there must be God. The Quran says, at least that's the, the claim. That's the methodology. So we should follow this. Don't start from God. If there is a God, what God are you talking about? I only see a child and a terrible death. Let's start from there and see what it tells us. La ilaha illallah. Try to explain the death of child through some, accident or some powers acting on child, whatever. Try to explain. If you can explain, there's no God for you. You don't need to believe in Allah. I apologize. I don't want to stop with my own words, but we have to stop. So if somebody else can speak and say something, we can, Alhamdulillah.
Oh, someone else had it.
I forgot about it, sorry.
Oh,
Whoever wants to say,
I was speaking, so we didn't
we have to conclude, please.
Renee? So I don't know if this is good enough to conclude, but just this discussion reminded me of a phrase where it went like, you can come to know Allah through the creation, but he can't be contained within the creation. So that was like kind of like a summary type of thing. So he's the cause and the result, but you can't contain him within the means. So like you can't contain him within, for example, in the medicine, but like the causes and the results are all from him. So that was kind of just a summary thing that happened.
Okay, Jazakallah khairan. I apologize for going over time. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.